Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to our channel. And today we'll be discussing relationships in the modern age, where we are, where it's going. We will discuss some of what was happening in the past as well. So today I have with me on the panel Suresh, Hemant, and Anupam. And yes, guys, let's go ahead. Let's shoot. So in the past, the kind of relationships that we had between a man and a woman was known mostly as the monogamous relationship. There were certain cultures that had polygamy there. That is one man or to multiple women, or maybe one woman to multiple men. I don't know. But what happened is today there's a larger experiment. I mean, the youth are really experimenting a lot with different forms of thinking about it in a new paradigm, a new way of looking about at relationships. They're trying to experiment, open up their avenues. So we'll be here just talking about some of the ideas that are out there, whether it's valid, it really works, how it's related to communication as well. So right, let's shoot. Hemant, I wanted to ask you. There's a new type of relationship known as the polyamorous relationship. Now, the polyamorous relationship is one in which multiple partners know that their partner has multiple other partners and they all know about it. And they're supposed to be communicating openly and frankly about it. And they have a relationship that they enjoy very much, according to them. So, what's your take on this idea as a polyamorous relationship? What do you think about it? How do you feel that it'll affect society? I mean, mostly, of course, it should just affect them as long as it doesn't do anything to society as such. But from the way I see it, there is no danger to anybody else. They're doing their own, having their own lifestyle. But nevertheless, what do you feel its impact will be on society? What do you feel its impact is on the individual?
Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Rahul, and hi, my dear friends, Suresh sir and Anubhav. Yes, this actually this there's nothing wrong because in any relationship, the individuals themselves are not causing any harm to the society as long as I mean everyone has got his own right to pursue whatever kind of relationship he wants to. But as far as the polyamorous relationship is concerned, what my concern is what is see uh, in any relationship there needs to be a orientation. There needs to be a goal orientation. For instance, let us talk from the Indian context because we are all Indians and we are used to this concept of a marriage. I mean, marriage is something which is considered sacred in India between a man and a woman. So, two people get married and then they have children, a child or children. So, what
Interrupting
is,
you, Hemant,
yeah. So,
that
what is going
particular
to
form
happen?
of a particular form of a relationship, I believe, in India is also fairly recent. Before, different communities had different ways of marrying. I think this kind of a relationship that we have is only maybe 200 years old or so. Before that, I think each community had its own method, if I'm not mistaken, in India, which was not just one man and one woman. Just interjecting. Sorry for coming. Go ahead. Let's hear what you have to
So,
say.
polyamorous, to be very brief, polyamorous relationship. Basically, my concern is what is going to be there for the next generation. How is there going to is there a direction? In any relationship, there should be a direction. So it is something which is non-committal. So four people, say four males and four females, they have a multiple relationship amongst themselves. So it is just that they are enjoying themselves. So what is it that is going to happen? See, if, in a society, what I feel is we need to always have that kind of yes, we need to enjoy ourselves, but at the same time, we need to also look into the next generation. So the kind of I don't know because actually this kind of relationship which we are talking about polyamorous, what happens if they conceive? So what happens to the children? How are they going to bring them up? So these are all points to be discussed, isn't it? I mean, between say a husband with the kind of normal I mean, marriage relationships that we have in India now, we have a child or we have children. The next thing is we have a moral responsibility. At least in 90% of the cases, we have a moral responsibility where we bring them up, and then we want to make them. skillful so that they lead a independent life in the future. So, as far as polyamorous relationship is concerned, yes, it may be enjoyable for the partners, but what happens if children are born? Then how are they going to manage it? That's the biggest. So then
I think
their
the
communication.
idea
I
in
don't know.
polyamorous relationships is not to have children, perhaps.
Yeah.
That is
So
something that
maybe,
might be
yeah, if
there.
they have children, yes. If
Yes.
they're going to have children, then it is a problem. Otherwise, I don't think there is any issue as such. That is my take. And then of course communication. So today we are the relationship. We are talking about relationship, but the main thing is how communicating effectively is going to manage the relationship. So in polyamorous relationship, if the communication is open, I think in any relationship, whether it is between a client and a vendor, between a teacher and a student, or between a superior and a subordinate, uh, it is all about open communication. I think open communication creates that bond, that rapport, which is very important. So similarly, in polyamorous relationship also, if the communication is open, definitely the rapport is created, and I'm definitely sure that kind of a relationship also will blossom. I mean, there is not going to be any encumbrance or any hindrance. This is my take.
What
Effective
is your
communication.
take on this, Anupam, when you hear Hemant's views here? I'd like you to just connect it to polygamy also, if you can. The polyamorous, polygamy, and monogamous relationships. If you can give us your viewpoint on how they, what you think, how they really function on a practical level, whether you think the players there would really benefit from any one of these, or are any one of these who are, forms of a relationship actually going to suck the life force out of those who participate in them? Yeah, go ahead, Anupam. I'd like to hear your viewpoint.
Yeah, so thanks, Rahul, and thanks, Hemant, for your views on that. For me, I think when we talk about society, we have different ideas, and then people come in different forms for any of the things that as a society is doing. For like in relationships, we have multiple kind of relationships, like you said, polyamorous relationship, and I feel in polyamorous, they are not thinking about the society. They are just doing there for themselves, for their enjoyment. And as a society, if society needs to grow, I think they then will have to switch to a more stable relationship where people can trust each other, and then they can grow their family, and then that is how the society will grow economically as well, and otherwise it will be difficult for a country to sustain. Like we have seen in Japan, in Japanese culture nowadays, they are not trying to marry each other. They are doing it for enjoyment, and then they have a lot of work pressure, and they believe that they do not want children because of the high societal pressure and economical pressure that they have because of the inflation and all such things. So, in case if people are more involved in polyamorous kind of relationship, it will be difficult for society to sustain. And here comes the picture where we see the pros of monogamous relationship where each other trust each other and they commit to each other for their lifetime, and also they think about their own children, how they are going to shape up their future, and those will the future of the if people who are thinking about the future of their children, I think indirectly will also think about the society. And in polygamous, I think it's becoming difficult these days. If we go through the, I'll just again I'll say through the economic wise, it's not economical because to marry four wives, even if you see the inflation nowadays, even with a single child, people are struggling with their finances. They have to be at their toes to manage their finances, even if they have a single child, considering the tax burden that we have, and again the education that has gone, uh, the costing of education has gone so high, even the primary education, leave alone the higher education or the professional education that we are thinking of planning for our children. And then we have our own self uh, to earn our livelihood, because in the future there will be no pensions for us as a private employers. We'll have to be very we have to work, I think, beyond our 60 years of age because of the tax burden and all those things. And I think these kind of relationships that are coming up, yes, people are enjoying, and I think even in the early when they are in their early 20s or when they are young, I think it's okay. But I think in the longer run, I think monogamous relationship, I think, is the way to go. This is my take, Rahul.
Right, right. Fantastic, fantastic. But I mean, we were here discussing society. You had some very interesting points, Anupam, I must say. And you were discussing society. I just like to ask Suresh sir, do you really think that the individual should be so concerned about society, or do you think he should just live his life normally? Because society would probably not um take care of him if he has a very, very lonely relationship. Let's say he goes through a monogamous relationship, or she goes through a monogamous relationship, and they're struggling in that monogamous relationship, and they desire to explore a different kind of avenue altogether. Take away themselves away from the hell of the relationship, and they go, and maybe one partner happens to have a polyamorous relationship with six other people all involved. And do you feel that he or she should really consider society so much as Anupam said, or do you think that they should rather stick to a more open and communication and frank acceptance, communicate more about the kind of relationship they are, being open about it, and live their lives their own ways? What do you think? What is your opinion? Sorry, sir. I mean,
first of all, I agree with what Hemant and Anubhav said. In our society, culture and tradition have its own values, its own importance, because the Western people consider India as a what you call
many
a
of
mother
these
of
relationships
culture.
are happening now in the bigger urban cities, Tier 1 cities,
Okay.
and all. There's a lot of people
Okay.
who are going through these kind of relationships there also. So,
Okay. Polyamorous and polygamy exist in India also, but not as rampant as in Western countries. In India, I think this both polygamy and polyamorous relationship exist among celebrities. If you consider the film personalities or big industrialist entrepreneurs, they have such kind of relationship. Our DMK leader K. Karunanidhi had 3 wives, and from the 3 wives, he had so many children. Like Shashi Tharoor also had 2 or 3 wives. Because there are many film personalities, I don't want to name anyone, because they have money, power, fame. So no, the society will not peek into their personal affairs. Even if society will peek into their personal lives, they don't consider, because they are such a high celebrity with money, power, and fame. They can just ignore the society's versions. But if you come into the middle class or lower middle class common people of India, polygamy and polyamorous relationships are what you call a headache for the society, because if as an ordinary man, if I do such things, the society will definitely interfere through relatives, through neighbors. So it will be a burden for the entire family. But if a film personality or an industrialist have this relationship, polyamorous or polygamy, nobody cares. Even if society cares, they just ignore them, because the society cannot do any harm to them until a court order or something like that. So for an ordinary common man or woman in India, the society will definitely take into consideration the polyamorous and polygamy relationship. They will definitely interfere. Even in family itself, our elders or our senior members will definitely interfere and sometimes sort out. In the final stage, it may lead to court procedures.
okay.
So,
No, basically the idea that I'm trying to we're trying to portray here is, you see, many of these relationships are, because as per the internet, the polyamorous relationship is quite successful. If you go and browse on the internet and look for data, you'll see that it's considered to be quite successful. But although it's a very strange concept, they say its success stems from open communication. So, which is very interesting when we look at communication and relationships in general, because the way that we look at a polyamorous relationship is that we assume it is going to be a failure. And I don't know how they've come across the data that it's a success, but anyway, that's what they say. And they say it's because of communication. Now, most relationships succeed if communication is well defined. All right, if you say well defined, frank, and you know exactly what you're feeling, what you're going to be doing, and you're honest with each other. A large number of relationships are known to succeed. So I guess that must be one of the reasons that we have this kind of information out on polyamorous relationships being a success. Similar, I think it's a kind of new form similar to the LGBTQ, which is of course much older, but defined more recently as it has been defined. So guys, we'll look at, a different paradigm, a different outlook at relationships now. Independent and dependent relationships. That is something, polyamorous relationship or a polygamous one or a monogamous one, any one of them can be both independent and dependent. All right. So dependent is where you exist completely on the dependence of your partner. Okay. So that is your emotional experiences. You get a lot of it only from your partner. That is a dependent kind of relationship. An independent kind of relationship is where there is more of a sense of independence in your lives, controlling your own personal lives, a kind of a small wall, a mending wall, a Robert Frost style mending wall, a small wall between you and your partner where you have independent lives, but you do also coexist and have common life as well. So what do you guys feel about these two concepts altogether?
Yeah, actually, independent and dependent. Even if you take the typical Indian marriage, which is monogamous, if I'm correct, correct me if I'm, because I'm getting used to these terms. Yes. So in these relationships also, if you see the successful relationships, it is a mix of both independency and dependency. Those which have having dependence nature, they're mostly I've seen, if you take maybe 2 generations back, and maybe to a certain percentage 1 generation ago, and even today in many rural areas, the male or the husband dominates the wife. In many cases I've seen, and then my wife becomes dependent. So she's not. I mean, she feels the male is her guru. I mean, the husband is her guru, or she gives that kind of importance. So she becomes so dependent that she becomes emotionally weak, which is not good. But there are many relationships where such relationships between husband and wife, monogamous, where it has been a very successful and happy married life because of the mixture of both dependency and independence. That means, if you ask me, the independent relationship, each partner should respect the other, because husband and wife, definitely the individuals each will have his own taste, his own nature, his own character, his own way of life. So that should be respected. And it could also be a unique platform to learn from each other and improve ourselves, take feedback. So that is where I think communication plays a
So
real.
I think it's a bit like Robert Frost mending wall, right? Keep building the wall, keep mending it, keep it flexible. Sometimes be dependent, sometimes be independent, isn't it?
Yes.
Have
Yes.
a few, have a space for yourself, but at the same time have
Exactly.
together about it.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Only then, I am. If you ask me, that romantic feel and that the relationship will continue. Otherwise, you will get bored. Life will become bored, isn't it? So if that openness is there, so there the main thing is there should not be ego. There should not be ego. You should respect each other, and then maintain your independence, maintain your uniqueness. Don't lose yourself. At the same time, respect each other and be dependent, and have a beautiful relationship. This is what I believe. Yes, communication is the main. I mean, very important for this to
I think
really.
every kind of relationship, in every kind of relationship, we should look at communication as one of the most
Yes.
critical factors
Very well.
in helping
Yes.
build that relationship. Even relationships
Yes.
that we have in our daily lives, like professional relationships. I think, we don't have a kind of open communication, know our boundaries, know, exactly where we stand with regards to the other, we really are not going to build any kind of sustainable relationship, or either whether a romantic one, a networking one, or any other kind of relationship cannot form without open, frank communication, knowing our positions, and also being more clear about what it is we expect and what it is we're willing to give. Yeah. So, what do you guys have anything else maybe you'd like to put input into this? I think Anupam has something more to say. Anything else?
No, Rahul, for me, I guess when we are in a monogamous relationship, I think in that kind of relationship is the most critical and the most challenging part is the communication. I don't think when we are dealing with multiple partners, we are just doing for casual purpose, and then we know each other what we want from each other. But in a monogamous relationship, it becomes difficult when we have to be with a single person for rest of our lives. We should not get bored. We have to be communicating regularly, and also in a way that we are not crossing each other's boundary, because we have to stay in a single wall. And then if the communication is not proper in the way we are dealing with each other every day, it will be difficult for any of the person to be in a relationship for a longer duration of time. And that is what is happening these days, like with digital media coming up, that people have a lot of options. They see, and now I think monogamous kind of relationship, people are also like thinking that, did I chose the wrong person, because
There's a lot
I
of
could
people
have
who are
more
thinking
choices.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
If you go around, you see a lot of people who feel that in their monogamous relationship, after a period of time,
Yes.
10 years, 15
Right.
years, 20 years, they start wondering whether they are actually, something that they want to continue. And you see that even at a very local levels, in village levels and places like that in today's world, you happen to see that. Maybe the problem is that a lack of communication, sustained communication between the partners, where they are open and frank with each other. And to be frank with someone, you also have to know who you are, right? You have to know, you have to be able to communicate with yourself honestly. And once you know who you are and where you stand and what you're feeling exactly, it shouldn't be some kind of an itch in your soul, an itch in your spirit telling you, I'm angry at this, I'm this, and you don't really know where the root cause is, or you don't know what is driving that. So you have to understand the forces, the forces within that are actually driving it. And once you know exactly what it is you want, you should also be able to communicate frankly and to desire such a thing and be able to communicate frankly. So, of course, we don't advise our monogamous husbands out there to go and frankly tell their wives that they plan polygamy. Otherwise, this channel is not going to participate in anything like that. But we just tell you to be more frank and open about what you expect from that relationship itself. And of course, you have to give something to that relationship. So there is an element of sacrifice that you must be willing to make in some way or the other in order to ensure that the relationship goes forward. Because you can't take it all. You can't be in monogamous as well as in a polygamous or a polyamorous relationship like that. So you have to make choices. You have to give something, sacrifice something, and you have to take what you want out of a relationship as well. Yeah. So guys, it was very interesting, and definitely we will be adding more videos to our channel. And I would request all those who have enjoyed listening to what we have to say here, subscribe to our channel and we'll be there with new videos for you. Ciao.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.